Howdy, y'all. Mrs. Snarky here. I'm here today with Wonder Lady.
Mhm.
Uh-huh. And we are going to be reading and commenting on Seneca's Of Anger, Book 1. And we're at least going to try to get through 2 sections of this because it's really good. It's a commentary on anger and what it does to people and how one must manage it. It's one of those things that I like to contemplate often because I've had issues with anger. Have you had any issues with anger, Faye?
Yes, I'm very good at it.
You good at it? What do you mean by good at it?
Well, I'm not ashamed of anger. I know some people are like, you can't hate, but I can hate someone without wanting to torture them. Like, I can't stand so many people, but I still bring them to grocery stores and I don't abuse them. And, you can totally be against somebody, but yet still treat them like a human being.
Yeah. Well,
And I think a lot of people don't know how to manage their anger or hatred. It's like they're like, ew, kill it with fire. It's like,
yeah.
no, you can totally disapprove of somebody. You don't have to force yourself to like them or respect them in any way. You don't have to have any of that,
No,
in
you
my
don't.
opinion.
Agreed. I agree with all of that. I think that people tend to allow their anger to guide them instead of guide their own anger and their own feelings and their decency.
Hmm.
People that you often hate or are angry with, they're still people. They're still human beings and should be treated as such. So I agree with that.
Well, have you ever read A Poison Tree by William Blake?
That's my favorite. No, no. You would bring that up. Yes, I have. That
I
one.
was angry with my friend, I told my wrath did end. I was angry with my foe, I told it not, my wrath did grow. And I watered it in fears, night and morning with my tears. And I sunned it with smiles, and with soft, deceitful wiles. And it grew both day and night, and bore an apple bright. And my foe, behold it shine, and he knew that it was mine. And into my garden stole, when the night had veiled the pole. And in the morning glad I see my foe outstretched beneath the tree.
I love that. That was the first poem that I ever read and analyzed. Like I'd read poetry, but
Hmm.
I never really thought about the deeper meanings of it. And that was my first one. My mom and I would sit and we'd talk about poetry since I started reading this one. I love William Blake. Great artist, great poet, just great. Great, great, great.
Although a lot of people don't let you do like, even the first stanza. Like, if you get angry with your friend, you're supposed to be able to tell it so your wrath can end.
But there's so much more to it than that. There's many different
Hmm.
aspects and many different types of and levels of anger, right?
Sure.
So,
And we're gonna get into it.
yay, levels. All right, so Seneca was an educator to the Emperor Nero, which says absolutely nothing about his character. I do want to highlight that because Nero wasn't too happy and he was exiled. So take from that what you will. If you want to read more about Seneca, I'll probably put some links down in the description and also the link to this wiki source page that I'll be reading from.
Yes.
Yes. All right. So this comes from a larger series of books, the dialogues of Seneca, and this is the third book on anger. It's basically an essay, more than a book. So yeah, let's get into it. Section 1.
Hmm.
You have demanded of me, Novatus, that I should write how anger may be soothed, and it appears to me that you are right in feeling a special fear of this passion, which is above all others hideous and wild, for the others have some alloy of peace and quiet. but this consists wholly in action, in the impulse of grief, raging with an utterly inhuman lust for arms, blood, and tortures, careless of itself, provided it hurts another, rushing upon the very point of the sword, and greedy for revenge, even when it drags the avenger to ruin with itself. That
Wow.
that is very powerful message as to exactly what the consequences of just a wild and untamed rage. And we can see this demonstrated in life, everyday life, on a world scale. Uh,
Road rage,
yes,
people attacking each other on trains and subways, buses
yeah,
over stupid things.
people throwing shit fits in like restaurants, literal shit fits. There was one chick that threw shit, and anyway,
Hmm.
uh, she was so mad she took a dump in this place and threw it. So yeah, this is very careless. It's careless of itself, provided it hurts another. So, in other words, you're so blinded by it
Hmm.
that you have no care of the consequences to yourself as long as it hurts someone else. You will drag people down to hell with you when you're angry. Some of the wisest of men have in consequence of this called anger a short madness, for it is equally devoid of self control, regardless of decorum, forgetful of kinship, obstinately engrossed in whatever it begins to do, deaf to reason and advice, excited by trifling causes, awkward at perceiving what is true and just, and very like a falling rock which breaks itself into pieces upon the very thing which it crushes. So again, we're going more into, no matter who you are or what your status, if you're the wisest person on earth, still anger can turn you into a fool.
Right, if you act on it.
And, that very desire to go and like seek revenge or whatever
I
it
can
is.
I can be very obstinate.
Oh, can you?
Hmm.
I hadn't noticed.
Hmm.
But yeah, so the very thing that you're going after is kind of like when rocks fall or clash against each other. They'll eventually one will break.
Yeah.
So you're taking a real chance whenever you go after someone or an object. Even I've gotten mad at stuff, just like, ooh, I stubbed my toe on this. I want to take a sledgehammer to it. Not
I
that
get more mad at people. I usually write them off, but I might say some creative things, but I'm not physical.
you like being creative.
Yeah.
That's a good outlet, I would say. It's a lot better than actually doing people harm.
Yeah, I don't want to
And
do that.
and does it crush you? Is that a sword on which you would fall upon?
What do you mean?
Well, as it says here, rushing upon the very point of the sword, would you say that creativity as your weapon is something that you could rush upon and it do you damage?
Sometimes.
Yeah?
Yeah, well, if I have a problem with somebody and I tell someone else who's involved with them and they take it too seriously, like I
Um,
get creative and I'm like, this person, don't like them, and I say some horrible things. It depends on how seriously the other person takes me. Because
yeah,
once I let it verbalize and get out there, I can calm down.
yeah. That's all.
It's like, okay, I've said my piece. I'm okay now.
Yeah,
I may not want to be near that person, but at least I'm controlled after that.
right.
And if that person takes me too seriously, then forget it.
Yeah, and we can't really have any control over how people perceive us. So that's always kind of an obstacle that you run into
Hmm.
when you're dealing with anger and expressing that anger in whatever form you choose to take.
What about you? Have you ever rushed upon that sword?
Oh my god, in every way possible almost, except physically, of course. But uh I've been a very visceral human being in the past. And
Okay.
the bad thing about it was the consequences, of course, and the bad patterns that I got into. Because the more you engage in this behavior, the more the pattern is set. Sometimes you can get stuck in those patterns.
Right. You really can. I think using your words and creativity, maybe drawing a horrible picture or, and then like ripping it up afterwards. I mean, I know a lot of people think that's a little woo-ish, but, at least you're getting it out.
Right.
Like you're like, yes, this is the way I feel. I can own this and I'm done with it. I've
Right.
taken it to the limit. I've expressed it. I haven't hit anyone, which is good.
Yeah. And you can't just push it down either.
No.
It's like a pressure cooker. It builds up.
I
So,
can't say I've never gone for revenge. I have once.
yeah. Did it end well for you? You don't have to go into details.
Well, no, here's the thing. Like my revenge was like screaming at my neighbor who basically like bullied the garbage service from not coming to my apartment.
Oh, wow.
Like he basically made it impossible for anyone on my street to get garbage service. And there's no other way, and I'm the only person who drives.
Wow. That's probably
So, um, now I have to take my trash to the thing because he doesn't want the trucks on the street. Although he has trucks on the street. He doesn't want anyone else having trucks.
well, that's not
It's
his.
a private road. He owns part of it. It's not public. He does have that right. The other road owner has Alzheimer's, and like two other are out of state, so he basically is in control.
Well, there's also right of way. If people are, you can't landlock people in most states anyway.
They're not landlocked. They
Okay.
just can't get trash service. So anyway, I was basically getting mouthy and mouthy and mouthy, and I wrote a nasty report on like I don't know what it was, like some sort of review thing for his place because like they're awful human beings.
Lots of those in the world.
Right. So it was like one of those Yelpy things, but that's as far as I went.
Well, that is not even. I think that's just this. That's
That's me being juvenile and horrible. Yeah, I know. I get it.
not revenge.
That's revenge.
You and I have very different perceptions of what revenge is, but that's fine. I mean, if
That's as active as I got though, and
uh,
and
I've done worse in Houston traffic, to be honest. But
oh, I flip people off in traffic, but
well, hell yeah, have
but
to.
but I mean like I was livid because I know I mean some people around here are still suffering the consequences of what he did. And I'm mad. I'm
Uh,
still mad about it. But
it's the justifiable anger, right?
right, well, I'm still arguing with the town about it, so we'll see
Oh
what happens.
joy! Good luck with that, though. I
Thank
hope you
you.
get that sorted out. To continue.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, you're fine. I was asking questions because I want this to be an engagement. This isn't
Yeah.
this isn't just well, you have to follow these rules and the
Well,
so
we're human, aren't we? Like a lot of people have unjustified anger
yes,
or even justified anger,
yes,
but some of the actions that come from it, whether it's justified or not, are not okay.
yeah, that's often the case. You can take someone who's justifiably angry that responds in a way that just does not help them. It just does not. So moving on.
Mhm.
That you may know that they whom anger possesses are not sane. Look at their appearance. For as there are distinct symptoms which mark madmen, such as bold and menacing air, a gloomy brow, a stern face, a hurried walk, restless hands, changed color, quick and strongly drawn breathing.
Ooh.
The signs of angry men, too, are the same. Their eyes blaze and sparkle. Their whole face is deep red with the blood which boils up from the bottom of their heart. Their lips quiver. Their teeth are set. Their hair bristles and stands on end. Their breath is labored and hissing. Their joints crack as they twist them about. They groan, bellow, and burst into scarcely intelligible talk. They often clap their hands together and stamp on the ground with their feet, and their whole body is highly strung and plays those tricks which mark a distraught mind, so as to furnish an ugly and shocking picture of self-preservation and excitement. You cannot tell whether this vice is more execrable or more disgusting. Other vices can be concealed and cherished in secret. Anger shows itself openly, and appears in the countenance, and the greater it is, the more plainly it boils forth.
It's
That's
true.
quite a description. I think he goes in a lot of depth of how it's just madness whenever you're angry. Whenever you're this full of wrath, you have no control whatsoever over your body or your mind.
That's kind of frightening.
It really is. It kind of reminds me of all those snapped episodes
Yeah.
where they lose their minds and they know right from wrong, but they have no control.
Yeah.
Do you not see how in all animals certain signs appear before they proceed to mischief? Their entire bodies put off their usual quiet appearance and stir up their ferocity. Boars foam at the mouth and sharpen their teeth by rubbing them against trees. Bulls toss their horns in the air and scatter the sand with blows of their feet. Lions growl. The necks of enraged snakes swell. Mad dogs have a sullen look. There is no animal so hateful, so venomous by nature, that it does not, when seized by anger, show additional fierceness. Jeez. It really does paint a picture of just how primal it is, too. I mean, anger is one of those real initial kind of feelings that you get whenever you feel there's danger, you feel like you're being attacked, or
It
it,
kind of makes me laugh though, because there's so many people who don't like to think of human beings as animals,
oh, we totally are animals.
and this sort of like observe yourself when you're angry. You are very much an animal.
Very much so. We are great apes.
Mhm.
I mean, that's just science. I know well that the other passions can hardly be concealed, and that lust, fear, and boldness give signs of their presence and may be discovered beforehand. For there is no one of the stronger passions that does not affect the countenance. What then is the difference between them and anger? Why, that the other passions are visible, but that this is conspicuous. So what do you think? Why is anger so difficult to conceal?
Mm, I think part of it is like the hope of scaring off your agitator.
Yes.
Like if they run away, then you don't have to attack and you can save energy, as a creature. And
Good point.
if someone's scared and runs away, then you feel, aha, I've won. I don't have to attack.
You would
'Cause
feel a lot stronger and probably vilified, right?
one would hope, rather than like go all honey badger.
Yeah, but like when someone is in just anger wrath mode
Mhm.
and they do go honey badger,
Mhm.
is it always a good thing though? Can you see the utility in it, or what do you think is the utility and the problems with it?
Well, quite honestly, it really, unless your life is in danger, like you're angry, you're like, oh, you're not taking me out. Unless it's defense rather than an attack, because you can get angry from all kinds of things, from
Yes.
the feeling of being attacked, or from the the feeling that you need to attack.
Yeah.
Um, I think anger is kind of like mixed between the two sometimes.
Right.
I think a lot of people have a lot of, and maybe even animals too, like the fierceness, the violence. It could come from like protecting their role.
Oh, so it could have something to do with hierarchies and how we
Right,
organize as a social species.
right. Like
Mhm.
hyenas,
Right.
they're kind of violent and they get pissed off at each other, and they have very clear laws.
Definitely.
So, I mean, like, there's that, and some people might argue that it's not anger, but if you're motivated, like, if you're a creature that's motivated to kill, I don't think murdering someone in your own species is, like a casual thing. You'd have to get pretty enraged to do that. And
Hmm.
sometimes hyenas will. I'm not advocating murder, by the way.
Well, I think
But,
we're a different species
right.
with a different social setup. Really, we have societies, and we have laws, and we have certain ethics in order to determine what is lawful, what is not, what's permissible, what is not, what should be punished,
Mhm.
what should not. And so I
And
don't
so do
have
hyenas.
with hyenas and with humans. I mean, we are not perfect. Let's
Mm-mm.
let's keep it 100. We're not perfect when it comes to conditioning. Let's just say, but at the same time, we don't have the dynamics that hyenas have. For example, we don't have to hunt. We don't have to defend ourselves against predators like hyenas do. And I can't help but wonder if, since these kind of responses come from the portion of the brain that is more or less the oldest, if these things are more cultivated and more predominant and more kind of unconscious on an unconscious, subconscious level, to where they're just extremely powerful, but we don't really know much about what we're feeling. Do you get what I'm saying?
Uh, yeah, I think observers can try more so than the person actually going through it, because a lot of people will say, I saw red, and they'll say that they don't remember what they did, or they'll say, I was in such a throw of passion that I couldn't control myself. Like, I
Right.
wasn't thinking, I was doing impulsive things. I don't know what I was thinking. You hear that a lot,
Yeah.
but I don't know if that is because they don't want to be introspective, because they don't want the shame of being angry or shame of being violent,
Hmm.
because it's not something that we applaud in human society.
Right, it's frowned upon. And
Right.
the social, pressures that we are given most of our lives in terms of, how we when we demonstrate anger, it's not good. It's a
Right.
negative feedback.
I mean, we lie to ourselves when we say we're civilized.
Yes, we do. I think we're striving for something that really, let's be honest, we won't achieve in our lifetimes. We strive to be the maybe not perfection, but the best, right? In terms of our generation, in terms of our species, yada yada yada.
Hmm.
So, my hypothesis basically is this: we have these old functions of the brain, and we have, of course, the newer functions that aren't quite developed enough to overcome some of the older feelings like anger and fear.
Hmm.
So I think it takes a lot of effort to try to rein in those emotions, those passions, as they call it, in during this time of Seneca.
Well, you'll forgive me, but I think part of it is kind of like Victorians. They tried to not be passionate. Like nothing could be sexual, but it was, and
Right.
nothing could be this, but it was, and nothing could be that, and like I think certain ideals become fashionable,
Mm.
but in order to do what is fashionable, I honestly think there still needs to be an outlet.
Yes.
So when it comes to aggression, things like sports and competition are good ways to bleed off that.
Yes, exercise, or I like to angry write and then burn them. Like I'll write a letter to who I'm angry at and just say all this horrible, shitty stuff that I want to say, and then I'll
Does that
burn it.
help?
It helps a lot, when you just write down "you motherfucking bitch," and then you burn it, and it doesn't harm anyone, and you feel better.
Right.
It's a good tactic, I think. Written
I think it sounds excellent, but
so
I
many
mean,
letters.
like, I think managing anger, like, I know there's anger management classes for driving.
Yes.
I've never been to one, but, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
road rage and different ways of handling rage, and I don't know what the threat is behind that. And maybe rage is more complicated than I know. But I mean, we're not allowed to act on it.
Yeah, well, we can act on it, but the consequences.
Yeah.
They're,
Well,
we're free to act as we please, but the consequences are what's going to get us. We're free to make mistakes. We're free to be responsible. We're free to suck everything up or make everything better. We're free to cultivate ourselves and our lives.
right.
So,
But everything we do, like someone else is free to cage me for being off.
right. But then they could get caught and then they'll be caged.
Sure.
So, consequences. I think maybe we should wrap it up here. Faye, do you have any questions or comments about what we read so far?
Well, my main question is I'd like to know what other people feel about um what anger is. Like, and
Hmm.
what rage is. Like, have they ever been in a rage? How did they deal with it? Did they deal with it physically? Did they deal with it creatively, intellectually? Um, like, what was it? What was the trigger? Was it like self protection or protection of someone else or a different way of mitigating a threat? Like, it's it's a curiosity.
Yeah, that's a really good question. It really is. There's a lot to it, but it's a good question. So, everybody, go ahead and answer her question in the comments. Let us know, how have you ever experienced this level of wrath and how did you deal with it? Do you have a method of dealing with it? Or do you just allow your anger to control your life? Let us know. And thank you for watching. Bye,
Thank
y'all.
you. Bye.